everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to tackle a part of speech we all think we know, right? The noun. But I'm telling you, it holds a surprising amount of complexity and, honestly, a lot of power. So get ready to see the humble noun in a totally new light. Trust me, it's way more of a superhero than a sidekick in the world of words. So, let me ask you straight up. Do you really think you know what a noun is? I bet you've got that person, place, or thing definition locked and loaded, but I promise you there is so much more hiding just beneath the surface. Okay, let's start with the absolute basics. A noun isn't just some random label. It's what grammar geeks call the primary lexical anchor of language. What does that even mean? Well, think of it as the solid ground we build our sentences on. It's the core ingredient that lets us name literally everything: a person, a place, something you can hold, or even a completely abstract idea. In any sentence, the noun is there to answer those two fundamental questions: who and what. So, now we're going to start peeling back the layers. We're going way beyond that classic definition to look at the different categories. You could even call them the secret identities that nouns can have. You know, the most basic split is between common and proper nouns. Just think of common nouns as the generic labels for a whole class of things: a city, any river, an author. But proper nouns, they're the unique identifiers for one specific entity. That's why they always get capitalized. They're like the VIPs of the noun world, pointing to one specific Memphis or one specific now river. Now, this is where it gets really interesting because this next division is all about our relationship to the nouns themselves. Concrete nouns are all the things we can perceive with our five senses, right? You can touch a keyboard, you can smell garlic, you can hear thunder. But abstract nouns, those are concepts we can only recognize with our minds. You can't touch justice or see courage, but we absolutely know they exist. They're the nouns that give real shape to our thoughts, our feelings, and our biggest ideas. Okay, next up, mastering noun logic. We're going to dive into the rules that really govern how nouns behave, how they act in sentences. And this is where the grammar gets fun, I promise. Starting with a distinction that, honestly, trips a lot of people up. So this split between count and non-count nouns is actually more about how our brains see the world than you might think. Count nouns are things we see as separate, individual units that, well, you can count: one bottle, two fingers, three cats. But non-count nouns, sometimes called mass nouns, are things we see as a whole, a substance or a concept that can't really be divided into parts, like water, furniture, or advice. You can't have three advices, right? And here is why that distinction matters so much. This is the practical payoff. Your choice between words, these quantifiers like many and much or few and little, it completely depends on whether the noun is countable or not. So you have many bottles but much water. You have few fingers but little advice. See how that works? Of course, grammar is never that simple, is it? Not all plurals are just about adding an S. Irregular plurals are these fascinating leftovers from the history of English. Some of them come from these old vowel shifts in Old English, which is why man becomes men. Others are words we borrowed from Latin or Greek that just kept their original plural forms, like crisis becoming crises. And then you've got the weird ones that don't change at all. Each one is like a tiny fossil, preserving a little piece of the language's long and messy history. Okay, so we know the different types of nouns, but what do they actually do? Well, in this next section, we're putting these nouns to work. You're going to see that a single noun can wear a whole bunch of different hats, all within the same sentence. Let's just follow one sentence and watch this happen. First, a noun can be the subject, the one doing the action. The teacher explained. Simple enough. It can also be the direct object, the thing receiving the action. What did the teacher explain? The lesson. Then there's the indirect object, which receives the direct object. To whom did she give the lesson? The students. And finally, a subject complement comes after a linking verb like is and actually renames the subject. The teacher is an expert. So how in the world do you tell the difference between a subject complement and a direct object? It can be tricky, but here's a super simple trick. A subject complement renames or describes the subject, so you can pretty much replace the verb with an equal sign. The quiche equals delicious. Yeah, that makes sense. But with a direct object, the subject is doing something to it. The toddler tasted the snowflake. If you try to say the toddler equals the snowflake, it doesn't work. The snowflake is receiving the action. Okay, for our final section, we are looking at how nouns get even more flexible. This is when they break out of their traditional roles and start moonlighting as other parts of speech. They become true linguistic multitaskers. I absolutely love this quote from Merriam-Webster because it just perfectly captures this idea. We're about to look at nouns that have literally learned how to multitask, to do way more than just name things. This is what we call an attributive noun. Basically, it's a noun that's acting like an adjective. It's modifying another noun. So in business meeting, the noun business is describing what kind of meeting it is. And here's the key difference between this and a real adjective. You can't add or more to it, right? You can't have a busier meeting or a more business meeting. It just sounds wrong. This same kind of flexibility leads us to another classic grammar puzzle. Come on, we've all stumbled over this one. But the answer is actually pretty simple once you understand how these multi-word or compound nouns really work. And check this out. This table breaks down the logic perfectly. You've got three types: closed, open, and hyphenated. For a closed one, like toothpaste, it's easy. The S just goes on the end. Toothpastes. But for the open and hyphenated ones, you have to find the main or the most significant noun in the phrase. In mother-in-law, the core person is the mother, right? Not the law. So it becomes mothers-in-law. It's the same for bus stop. The main idea is the stop, so it becomes bus stops. Simple, right? So, after all of this, what's the big takeaway? It's that the noun is so much more than that simple person, place, or thing label. It's a dynamic, it's a versatile, and it's a totally foundational tool that we all use to construct meaning, to define our reality, and to build our most complex thoughts. And that kind of leaves me with one final thought to leave you with. Language is always, always evolving. As our technology, our culture, and our ideas keep changing, what new people, places, things, and concepts are we going to need nouns for in the future? What's the next word just waiting to be born?